For decades, America was known as the world's breadbasket, a land where endless fields of golden wheat, towering corn, and rich soybeans stretched as far as the eye could see. These crops didn't just feed a nation, they fed billions across the globe, shaping not only dinner tables but also the very balance of global power. American farmers became icons of abundance, their harvests fueling economies, supporting allies, and even influencing the outcome of wars. The bounty of the American heartland was a symbol of prosperity and reliability, a cornerstone of the world's food supply. But today, that story is quietly, yet dramatically changing. The world is beginning to look elsewhere for its food. In supermarkets and markets from Europe to Asia, American produce is becoming less common. International buyers are seeking new partners, and the once unquestioned dominance of U.S. agriculture is being challenged in ways few could have predicted just a generation ago. Countries that once depended almost entirely on American farms are now diversifying their sources. They're turning to the fertile plains of South America, the vast wheat fields of Eastern Europe, and emerging agricultural powerhouses in Africa and Asia. These regions are ramping up production, investing in technology, and offering competitive prices, making them attractive alternatives to American exports. This shift isn't just about economics or trade statistics, it's deeply personal. It's reshaping the lives of millions of American farmers, threatening the survival of rural communities, and altering the fabric of small towns built on generations of farming. On the global stage, it's changing relationships between nations, as new alliances form and old ones are tested. Why is the world turning away from America's breadbasket? The answer is complex. Trade disputes and tariffs have made U.S. crops less attractive. New competitors are offering similar products at lower prices. Climate change is bringing unpredictable weather, droughts, and floods, making farming riskier than ever. And global supply chains, once smooth and reliable, are now plagued by delays and disruptions. In this video, we'll dive deep into how America rose to agricultural dominance, what's driving the world to seek alternatives, and how U.S. farmers are fighting to adapt, embracing new technologies, exploring new markets, and reimagining what it means to feed the world. To understand where we are today, let's start by looking back at how America became the world's farm in the first place, a story of innovation, ambition, and the promise of the land. America's agricultural dominance didn't happen by accident. It began with a stroke of luck and vision, a jackpot of vast, fertile land acquired through the Louisiana Purchase and the relentless push of westward expansion. This land, stretching from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains, offered rich soil and a climate perfect for growing a wide variety of crops. Early settlers, lured by the promise of opportunity, transformed wild prairies into productive farmland, laying the foundation for a nation that would one day feed the world. But land alone wasn't enough to secure America's place at the top. The real leap forward came from relentless innovation and a willingness to embrace change. From the introduction of steel plows and mechanized tractors to the scientific breakthroughs of the Green Revolution, American farmers adopted high-yield crops, chemical fertilizers, and advanced machinery. These innovations didn't just increase productivity, they revolutionized the way food was grown, harvested, and distributed, making it possible to feed a rapidly growing population at home and abroad. As a result, American farms became global models of industrial efficiency. Fields grew larger, harvests more bountiful, and surpluses soared. The United States emerged as the world's leading agricultural exporter, shipping wheat, corn, and soybeans to every corner of the globe. This abundance wasn't just about feeding Americans, it was about feeding the world. After World War II, American food exports and humanitarian aid became powerful tools of diplomacy. Shipments of grain and other staples helped rebuild war-torn nations and fostered alliances, cementing America's reputation as the world's indispensable farmer. Food became a symbol of hope and stability, and the U.S. used its agricultural might to influence global politics and promote peace. Profits from these exports fueled even more research and the growth of ever larger farms. Government support played a crucial role, investing in rural infrastructure, roads, railways, irrigation systems, and research institutions that kept the agricultural engine running smoothly. This partnership between farmers, scientists, and policymakers created a system that was the envy of the world. For decades, the world's growing population needed food, and America delivered, reliably, abundantly, and at a price that few could match. American agriculture became synonymous with abundance and dependability, feeding millions and driving economic growth both at home and abroad. But as the world changed, so did the challenges facing American agriculture. The equation that made America the world's breadbasket, abundant land, relentless innovation, and global demand, was about to be tested in ways no one could have predicted. The first big shock to the global soybean market didn't come from a drought, a flood, or a pest outbreak. Instead, it came from the world of politics, a place where decisions can ripple across continents and reshape entire industries overnight. In 2018, the United States and China, two economic giants, became locked in a heated trade war. Tariffs were imposed on hundreds of products, but for American farmers, one move stood out. China, their biggest customer for soybeans, retaliated by slapping a steep 25% tariff on U.S. soybeans. Suddenly, what had been a thriving export was now too expensive and unattractive for Chinese buyers. For decades, American soybeans had flowed steadily into China, fueling its livestock industry and feeding its growing population. But with the new tariffs, those shipments slowed to a trickle. China, determined not to be held hostage by U.S. trade policy, quickly turned to other suppliers, most notably Brazil and Argentina. These countries ramped up production, and global trade routes were redrawn almost overnight. As China diversified its sources, American farmers back home faced a harsh reality. Prices for soybeans plummeted, warehouses and silos overflowed with unsold crops, and many farmers saw their incomes drop dramatically. The U.S. government stepped in with financial aid, but for many, the damage was more than just economic. The trust that had built up over years of trade was suddenly shattered. Even after the trade tensions eased and some tariffs were rolled back, the landscape had changed. China had established new, reliable relationships with other suppliers and didn't return to buying American soybeans at previous levels. The U.S. lost its most lucrative market, and many farmers were left wondering if things would ever return to normal. The trade war had exposed a critical vulnerability in American agriculture, its heavy dependence on a single foreign market. It became clear that geopolitics could disrupt livelihoods just as easily as weather or pests. The lesson was stark. Food security is national security. No country wants to find its food supply, or the fate of its farmers, at the mercy of another nation's political decisions. The soybean saga became a wake-up call for the entire industry. In the end, the story of soybeans and the trade war is about more than just economics. It's about the importance of reliable trade partners, the risks of overdependence, and the need for resilience in a rapidly changing world. For American farmers and for countries everywhere, it was a powerful reminder. In global trade, reliability can matter just as much as price. The soybean saga was a wake-up call. Reliability matters as much as price, and the world is always watching for the next big shift. While the U.S. was distracted by trade wars, rivals like Brazil surged ahead. Brazil's vast land, favorable climate, and lower costs made it the world's top soybean exporter, outpacing the U.S. Russia and Ukraine before the war, became wheat powerhouses, undercutting U.S. prices in key markets. Technology and know-how spread worldwide, closing the innovation gap. Now, buyers have more choices than ever. India in rice, Vietnam in coffee, even small nations in niche crops. The U.S. is no longer the default supplier, it's just one of many. American farmers now compete globally, not just locally, squeezing profits and raising the stakes. The world's pantry is crowded and America has to fight for its shelf space. Climate change is hitting America's farm belt hard. Droughts, water shortages, and unpredictable weather threaten key crops. Buyers worry about the long-term reliability of U.S. supplies. Meanwhile, global consumers and governments demand food that's not just cheap, but sustainable. The U.S. faces criticism for industrial-scale farming, GMOs, and environmental impact, especially from Europe, where regulations block many American crops. The question is shifting. Can you feed us sustainably? American efficiency is sometimes seen as unsustainable, pushing buyers toward local or organic alternatives. U.S. farmers must now adapt to climate realities and prove their environmental credentials to stay competitive. The perception problem is as real as any tariff. The pandemic exposed the fragility of global supply chains. Shipping delays, container shortages, and labor gaps made exports unreliable and expensive. Perishable goods rotted as costs soared, making American products less attractive overseas. buyers started looking closer to home, prioritizing reliability over price. Labor shortages in the US only made things worse, adding delays and costs. This isn't just a pandemic blip, it's a long-term challenge. For global buyers, uncertainty and risk now overshadow America's old reputation for smooth delivery. The world is rethinking food security and the US must adapt. American farmers aren't giving up, they're innovating. Precision agriculture, drones, GPS-guided tractors, and smart sensors boosts efficiency and sustainability. These tools cut costs, reduce environmental impact, and help farmers tell a new story: high-tech, responsible agriculture. Farmers are diversifying crops and markets, reducing reliance on a few big exports. They're exploring new products, from specialty grains to plant-based foods, and seeking domestic opportunities. Sustainable practices like no-till farming and cover cropping are gaining ground, with certifications to prove it. The goal: win back global buyers by meeting their demands for quality and sustainability. American agriculture is reinventing itself, one smart, sustainable bushel at a time. The future of American agriculture won't be about bulk, it'll be about value. The US will focus on high-quality, specialized, and sustainably produced food, leveraging its strengths in research and technology. Imagine exports that are traceable, certified, and tailored to global demands. Competing on quality, not just price, will set America apart. Partnerships between farmers, tech companies, and government will drive the next wave of innovation. The path forward is smart adaptation, acknowledging change, embracing new opportunities, and building resilience. The American farm may be smaller in market share, but it will be smarter, more sustainable, and more valuable. The world turning away from American agriculture isn't failure, it's evolution. Farmers are responding with resilience, embracing technology, sustainability, and new markets. The transition is ongoing and the outcome isn't certain. Can America rebrand itself as a leader in sustainable, high-tech food? That's the challenge ahead. The choices made today, in policy, investment, and innovation, will shape the next chapter. The American farm of the future will be known for intelligence, sustainability, and adaptability. A new harvest is on the horizon, one of renewal, not decline.